The following story happened while I was in middle school. My school had always had a Halloween party. Most schools have some event, I imagine. That particular Halloween, my friends and I decided to investigate the rumors of a haunted theater nearby. Various people had claimed it had a spirit in it. We figured that if there was someone there, it was only a student. It wouldn't be anything special. We crept through the darkened hallways, jumping at any sound, not out of fear of the supernatural, but out of fear of being busted by the faculty. We hadn't brought any flashlights since any light at all might alert the faculty to our presence. We reached the central staircase dividing the high school from the middle school. Each step we took sounded like an explosion to our ears. Upon reaching the bottom, we found ourselves swallowed by the darkness. We had been here so many times that didn't exactly deter us, though it did unnerve us. We slowly crept towards the double door of the theater. We didn't want to trip over any randomly placed chairs or benches. I pushed on the handle of one of the doors, and to our surprise, it opened rather smoothly. I held it for my friends, and after the last had entered, I eased the door shut. Once it clicked, I was assured that no one had seen us enter. We felt around for the stage of the theater. It's where most had suspected the spirit of being. Because I had been on ghost tours in the past, I had brought a camera to take pictures. Once we were on stage, we surveyed our surroundings, not that we could see much. "Dude, take a picture so we can get a glimpse of the stage," one of my friends suggested. None of us had been backstage, so at least having some brief light would be better than tripping and stumbling over chairs, blocks, costume racks, curtain strings, and so on. I pressed the power button on my camera. Nothing happened. "What are you waiting for, man?" another friend said. "One sec," I replied. "It's not turning on."
"Oh, Jim, don't tell us that you forgot the batteries."
"No, wait, there it goes."
The display lit up.
Ghostly white in the darkness, I began to aim the camera down the small backstage corridor. I checked that the flash was on and took a picture. An eerie white flash illuminated the hall and got a good view of what was back there. I decided to check the picture. At the end of the corridor, I could have sworn I saw a black figure peeking out from the end of the wall that divided the stage from the corridor. It wasn't anything I could really go off of, but somehow I knew that it was there. It wasn't angry. It wasn't happy. It looked both afraid and curious about us. I could have told my friends, but they may not have listened. They slowly went down the hallway and I followed, not knowing what we might encounter. We reached the end of the hallway, and we're in the small room on the end of that stage. It was oddly cold, but we weren't surprised. The doors to the outside were on that side. The cold October air could be creeping in. Again, I took a picture, and after the blinding light illuminated the room, I looked at the picture. I immediately dropped the camera when I saw it. There was a face on that picture. This pale face, long, straight black hair. Face was distorted. Her mouth was open wide. Her face was translucent, and I could see my friends on the other side. Why didn't they react to it? "What is it?" "Picture." I whimpered in fear. My friend approached and picked up the camera.
"Holy shit, what is that?"
I shushed him. I grabbed my camera, and as I did, I heard a soft whisper in my ear, as if someone were standing directly behind me. "Leave now." The sound made my back seize up and my eyes widened. Started moving towards the stage and felt my way towards the stairs on the side. Called to my friends. They were on their way. I was feeling along the wall to get back to the door at the back of the room. I pushed on the door, but it didn't budge. "What are you waiting for, man?" my friend said. "Open it." "I can't," I said. "It's locked." "What do you mean locked?" he demanded. "Push it." I felt something brush by me. Thought it was my other friend. We heard the door open and pushed our way out. We immediately made for the stairs, throwing caution to the wind. Suddenly the light came on. We looked around to see what had turned them on, and our friend, the one whom I thought had brushed by me, was walking out of the theater, eyes wide. "What just happened to us?" he asked. "If you're there, what did I feel? Who turned on the lights?" We exchanged looks. All of us were now wondering the same thing. We bolted up the stairs, causing a great deal of noise. It was now late enough for us to be a bit less cautious, as the teachers who may have been working late had all gone home now, or had joined the party. We raced out of school. We reached the bus stop down the street, and upon sitting down, let out a sigh of relief. None of us had said a word as we rode down the street. When I reached my stop, I walked up the hill leading to my house. This time of night, the forest on it was more intimidating. I reached my house at the top of the hill and walked in. "Hey, Jim. What are you doing back so early?" my dad asked. The party was boring, so I left." "You didn't leave alone, did you?" No, I left with my friends," I panted. "You're out of breath. Did you run up the hill or something?" "Oh, yeah, I'm trying to build endurance up for the mile run. You know, that always sneaks up on you." "Okay, then," he said, suspicion in his eyes. I walked up the stairs to my room and cracked open a book. I read until about 9:30, when I finally went to sleep. I had one of the worst nightmares of my life that night. I remember waking up hearing the words, "He can't disturb us any longer." I threw up in the toilet that morning, and the following day, I acted as though nothing happened. I did get nervous every time I walked by that theater after that. Now you know of that night's events. Maybe now things will change for me. Maybe they'll leave me be at last. This one has pictures, unfortunately. My husband James and I own an antique business in a big old bizarre barn of a building. 5 floors, multiple other tenants including a restaurant. Halloween was a Monday last year. We locked up the business at 5 p.m. and we went to an early dinner across town. And we got a call from Sinitrol, our security monitoring company, at 6:30. A motion detect on the lower level. Then another. We left in a tearing hurry, but figured it's a bird or a rat. We don't have rats, but something. It's way too early for a break-in after all. I went inside the main level upstairs and disarmed the alarm. It started fumbling noisily with the keys at the big iron gate, one of many that separate the floors at night. James checked the perimeter outside for signs of a break-in. Nothing. Doors and windows intact. Definitely, absolutely a bird. Dusk was long gone. The shadows had settled in and taken over. Just wardrobes loomed in the dark. Wardrobes and nothing more, right? I headed down below to the location of the alarm, trusting James would follow. After all, it was a rat, or a bird or something. I am accustomed to the building after dark, so I just turned on my phone light, not the overheads, and walked around boldly. I looked in the corner with the motion detector. Nothing. Just its red eye blinking mindlessly at me. No rats, no birds. I turned and went the other way while James poked around a few aisles over. And there it was. A burglary kit sitting in the middle of the floor. Bolt cutters, fire extinguisher, just sitting there, waiting. I've never gotten a bigger case of sheer terror so fast. After all, there was no broken window or door, so he was still there, in the dark, with me. I hissed, James, please. And he didn't hear me. I literally couldn't scream. Just like in my dreams, my voice stuck. Just me, the spotlit burglary tools, and a hostile presence lurking in the dusty shadows watching while I whispered for someone to save me. Finally, after what felt like 1,000 years, James wondered why I had taken root in the hallway and came to see. He saw what I was frozen pointing at, and it immediately clicked. We bolted out the front door to call 911 and wait, and we abandoned the building to the burglar. After an exhausting 5 minutes, the police showed up and were initially pretty unimpressed with our find of the crowbar and fire extinguisher, until we pulled up the security footage that revealed the actual horror, the face of my new sleep paralysis demon. So this guy, as is obvious,
is built like a lean, mean brick house. He'd crouched on a landing behind a bookcase when we closed and watched me and my staff walk up, bided his time, and as calm as could be, he walked out and went to the men's restroom in the hallway downstairs. That area isn't set for motion detection for a variety of reasons. He spent a while in there moving around with the door open. He constructed the mask using one of ours, and a fake flower wreath to hold it on. Purple plastic clematis. He looked right into the camera barefaced, and then put the mask on, stared at it fixedly in his mask for a time, finally put his gloves on. He stacked a few solid body vintage cases in front of a tall iron gate and hopped right over it like it was nothing. He ran down the hall, which triggered the 6:30 silent alarm, and looped the floor. He ran back into the hall and moved a ladder to hop back to the other side of the gate and, bizarrely, just repeated this whole thing a few times. Then he went to the basement, wormed over a 15-inch gap over another iron gate. Back to the hall again, stared into the camera more. I repeat, he was moving fast, up and over, back and forth, upstairs and downstairs, parkour style, almost. Then he got the tools out and peeled apart one of our steel lockboxes with the crowbar and stole a handful of our keys to access showcases. At this point, he heard me fumbling with the gate and keys upstairs. He ditched the stolen keys, tools, and hid, watching me while he waited in the dark. We exited to call 911, and he ran back into the basement. In the basement, there is access to a dirt tunnel that circles the perimeter of the building. He broke the door open and entered. Spiders the size of dinner plates live in there. He had no light. It's muddy and dank. It's, in a word, petrifying. There is a tiny exit hatch. If you walk the whole thing and take the multiple turns, that dumps you into the busy kitchen of a restaurant, whereupon one would need to stroll past the line cooks, out into the restaurant proper, the cameras, and then one could leave their front door, plastered with mud, which does leave tracks, speaking from experience. When we found it, there was a clear entrance into the tunnel, but no exit tracks. No muddy footprints, nobody walking out in the restaurant cameras, and the cooks noticed nothing. It was a busy night, though. Reviewing the footage, timing it all, tracing his path from camera to camera, and searching the building took hours. By the end, all of us, including the police, were starting to lose our collective cool and freak out. There was no chill to be had, especially when the guys with guns were rattled. After all, where did he go? James and the two officers had no choice but to walk the dirt tunnel. The cops took one look and were like, absolutely not. James insisted, and so they made him walk point. They made it about halfway through the tunnel before the cops were like, you are leaving with us, and we are going to review more footage from the restaurant where there are no spiders. Absolutely not. James got the okay from them to board up both ends of the tunnel, which he solidly did. And thus the story ends. The pictures I took got spread widely, but we got no useful leads despite the decent face shot. Did he indeed crawl out a hatch in the busy kitchen and stroll out past the cooks, leaving no trace of mud? I guess. We got no suspicious smells coming out of the tunnel in the later weeks and months, but nobody has walked the far side since. We only unboarded the tunnel last week for the split water main shenanigans. I vowed I will use his skull in this year's Halloween display, if he's dead down there.
Basically, this happened on my last Halloween. I was about 14 and me and my buddies were leaning towards the trick side of trick-or-treat. We spent the last month accumulating fireworks, planned to dress up in camo. We armed ourselves with super soakers and firecrackers, and were out to cause some mischief. This all took place in the next village over, so there'd be no comebacks the next day from angry neighbors. We had all our camo gear on and began to walk around, throwing firecrackers at anyone we saw and blasting them with the super soakers. It was great. We did spare one girl we recognized from our school. Her name was Julie. She was dressed like a cat. It was a good thing that we spared her, because if we hadn't, she wouldn't have been able to help us out of the situation we got ourselves in later on in the story. Once we got out of this part of the village, we met up with another group of kids that also went to our school. A couple of them I recognized from the year above us. We joined together after some introductions and continued on the trail that we had set out to establish. We were having the time of our lives. This group of kids we met told us of a rival gang from the next village over from this one. This was made up of the bullies of our school. They gave this one kid we all knew a proper beating. We were kind of a bit on edge once we knew that there was a little bit of danger out and about. So to take our mind off things, it was time to pull off the grand master plan. We had one really large air bomb rocket that we'd been saving for a special occasion. One of the older kids reminded us of this big crazy Irish guy who was the scourge of the youth in the village, as he was always complaining about everything. The plan was to go all the way to the street he lived on and launch the air bomb at his front door. This was way out of me and my best buddy's league. We weren't really up for doing it. As much of an asshole as he was, we weren't out to hurt anybody. And of course, within seconds, the older kids had our rocket, and we were making our way to the guy's house. Since we were scared of the rival gang finding us, we decided it was better to stick with the older crowd, even though we really didn't want anything to do with this. So there we were, all set at the Irishman's house. The older kids had it all worked out, and as quietly as possible, they set a tube in the ground and at just the right angle to launch the rocket at the middle of this guy's door. Older kids lit the rocket. Watching it head towards the door, it looked like it was all happening in slow motion. The angle was perfect. The distance was perfect. This thing hit the door dead center and it exploded. Like, really? I thought we were in Nam or something. Next thing we knew, almost immediately, the door explodes outwards as the big angry Irishman comes running out shouting all kinds of nasty things. "You fucking bastard kids! I'll show you not to fuck on my property!" He shouts. He's going apeshit. And then we realize that running out of the house are two big dogs. They're running directly at us. Almost in unison, all of us shout, "Run!" And there we were, running like bats out of hell from a big angry Irishman and his two killer dogs who do not look happy. "Split up," someone yells. "Come on, let's go to Martin's house," yells my best friend. "No, it's too far, your house is closer. Let's go there." So we split up from the main group, just the two of us, running quite possibly for our lives. We head down the street and come to the crossroads. We just need to run straight over on. We're safe. We can still hear the Irishman shouting behind us. "I'll get your fucking heads in, you little bastards," he shouts. He's actually keeping pace. Just as we are running over the crossroads, I look to my left and see something that made me go from 10 to 120. Literally, about 10 meters down the road to my left, I see about 20, actually 20 kids. It's the rival gang. They all had baseball bats, cricket bats, and rocks. They finally found us. Immediately, they all start shouting and running towards us. Get those fucking wankers! I hear, amongst other things. Should have gone to Martin's house. So now we have Irish madman, dogs behind us, and this rival gang to the left. These were big kids, really nasty guys. We can't go right because the road only goes on for a couple of miles before there are any houses. I was living deep in the countryside by this point, so right now London seemed like Disneyland. The only thing to do is continue on the way to my best friend's house. It's about 300 meters down the road, so we run, and so hard I thought I was going to die from exhaustion. There was no way I'm going to get caught by anyone tonight. Finally, I see Julie. I stopped to try and explain, but I'm out of breath. I didn't realize I made it. My friend's house is right there on the left. Then my friend's older sister arrives. I explain what happened rather hurriedly, as at this point she asks the most important question. Where's my little brother? Oh, fuck. I was so caught up in my own survival and Julie that I didn't even realize he wasn't right behind me. She looks at me straight in the eye. We have to go find him now. So off we go. My super soaker now feeling totally inadequate for the task at hand. Just me, Julie, my best friend's sister going back down the road I just ran up. His sister asked me if I have any weapons. It's me and my super soaker, Mom. Last firework was used on a crazy Irishman. The road I ran up so quickly is pitch black, eerily quiet. Any minute now I'm expecting to be ambushed by crazy people. Flinch at every sound, whilst trying to call out for my best buddy in hushed voices. Julie says she's scared. To my relief, it seems the mob of kids have all dispersed and the crazy Irishman and his dogs have retreated. Charlie? Charlie buddy, are you here? Hear a groan coming from the blackness and stop, frozen. McCready, are you there? It's Charlie, but where is he? His sister suddenly produces a mag light. She kept off so as not to attract attention, and illuminates the roadside, and then we see him. He's laying in a ditch full of stinging needles and thorns. His whole face is covered in stings and scratches. Charlie, what did they do to you, mate? Are you alright? I asked, by now feeling guilty that he got left behind. It turns out that the mob hadn't gotten a hold of him. Although Charlie wasn't as quick as me, he had a backup plan. In the darkness half the way up the road, he had jumped face first into a ditch of stinging needles and brambles, and just laid there in the blackness, quiet as a mouse until the hunt was off. So we all helped Charlie home, and his sister covered his insanely red and blotchy face with witch hazel to stop the itching. I got a lift home, and that was the last night we indulged in trick or treat. From then on, I stuck to sensible stuff, like drinking and picking up nice girls dressed like Julie. Thanks for listening, and please, for the love of God, don't throw fireworks at anyone on Halloween.